We didn't want to. She had it coming. I'm joking. There was no Molly there. The owner of the pub was not named Molly. It was just the pub was named Molly. And we played it every Monday for probably 2 or 3 years, every single Monday. And somebody said we were flogging the pub or flogging Molly to death, and then that became the name. Nothing to do with a woman.
And it's also kind of a metaphor for the style of music that we wanted to create, kind of Dave had in his head, which was like take like a band like the Dubliners and then kind of put it with a band like AC/DC, you know. So it's kind of the flogging and is the more rock or punk, and the Molly's like traditional. I mean, I don't know. I make this stuff up, but it sounds right.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah. Well, those people that have signed up for sex, drugs, and rock and roll, that was probably about 20 years ago.
Yeah.
You know, the internet's kind of changed everything. I mean, luckily enough for us, when we started touring, it was before any of us had cell phones. So we were still actually at pay phones and writing postcards. And so we got a taste of the good life before MySpace and Facebook fucking destroyed rock and roll. But that's all I'll say about that.
Nah, I mean, currently, I think everybody in the band and the crew are all married, kids, except for a couple people. So you don't see a lot of that. Rock and roll, yes.
Yeah. Rock and roll, celebrations, partying, but not so much with the drugs and the sex, you know. Let's just change the subject. I'm getting depressed here. I'm like, oh, yeah.
It's like, oh, really? Oh, God.
It's boring.
Can you remember your worst moment on stage?
Ooh. I've fallen off the stage, and that's never fun. Worst moment?
I passed out on stage in Pittsburgh and couldn't finish the show, and they took me to the emergency room. That was pretty bad.
What happened?
I had, I think I might have had food poisoning or something, and I was so dehydrated they had 2 IVs in me at the same time in the emergency room to get fluids back in me. I was fine. It was just, that was pretty miserable.
Yeah. Or there was a time when we were playing. So I have this reoccurring nightmare that we're playing and the stage is made out of snow and we're sinking into the stage. It's just, the stage is melting and all the audience is just turn their back to us and all walking away, and we're just like melting into the snow. And I kind of had a moment like that when we played a show in Chico. Do you remember this? And our very first song, it was a song called, it doesn't matter, but we're playing it, and we fuck up. The band fucks up, and someone makes a big mistake, and then the band is trying to fix itself, and we don't. Literally for about a minute and a half, 2 minutes, we're on stage, and we can't get it together. None of us are playing together, and it's like, oh my God, my dream is coming to life. It's all ending right here, right now.
Yeah. There was a show we played in the beginning, before we did the Warped Tour. It was the guy who owns the Warped Tour, Kevin Lyman, the promoter. He put us on this show up in the mountains in California for a X Games snowboarding, but the stage was outside at the bottom, at the base of the hill, in the mountains, in the snow. And it was cold, really cold, like unbelievably cold. Yeah. We did 4 songs and had to stop. That was it. You couldn't play anymore. The instruments, the cymbals were cracking, the strings were breaking, everything was like
below freezing.
Below freezing. It was
very cold.
That was too cold. Because I don't think it's that Irish, to be honest with you. I think there's Irish instrumentation, and I think Dave lyrically, he writes, he writes in an Irish sort of style, a very lyrical style, the way he speaks and writes his lyrics. And I think there's Irish instrumentation, and the way Bridget interprets violin parts are from the traditional part, but everybody else comes from a different background. And so it's Irish in terms of being Irish instrumentation and words and Irish influence, but everybody comes from a different musical background, so I don't really think it's it sounds that way immediately, the first thing that your ear is attracted to. But I don't think if you listen to everything that it's, you know, to me it's just, you know, just a rock band. But, you know, just everybody has different instrumentation. You know, I don't know if you were interviewing System of a Down, if you say, are you playing Armenian folk progressive rock? It's like, look, we're just Armenian guys, and this is, we're taking from our culture, and then we're making our own music, and we're just a rock band, you know. So that's kind of the way I feel about it.
That says a lot. Well, you know, if a song, music has the power to heal people and to help people go through grief. And I mean, it's helped me in my life listening to music. Keep a positive outlook, and we've had many situations where people have come to us and say, you know, my son passed away, and you were his favorite band, and we played, you know, one of your songs at the funeral, and it helped us all kind of get through it and celebrate his life rather than mourn. You know, I mean, it's hard to say, and it's a very heavy topic, but it does happen, and I can't tell you how many times that situation has happened. People are coming up to me and saying, you know, your music really does make a difference in my life. Please don't stop doing this. And you hear that enough times, you believe it. I mean, I know the music's made a huge difference in my life, so I relate to it. And
specifically, like the song "Punch Drunk Grinning Soul" that we did the public service announcement for post-traumatic stress syndrome. What it has the ability to do, to any degree, is raise awareness, not just amongst the soldiers, but amongst the Veterans Administration and the people who can actually treat these guys coming back, and they're not quite sure what's going on. And a lot of times, you know, the U.S. military tends to be dismissive of these things. You know, like, oh, really, there's Agent Orange. You know, they don't want to actually pay for the treatment on the way back. They just shove you back into society and say, oh, you were over there, you did all this, and you served your country, now you're back home and everything. They want everything to be okay, and it's not necessarily okay. And there's a lot of mental disorder going on, and these guys walking around the streets, and it's been going on for decades, and you know, and it was identified after the Vietnam War finally, and I don't think it's actually stopped after, you know, these conflicts. I don't know, but it seems to me there's enough of a problem, and people are attracted enough to that song and that public service announcement that it must have had an impact on somebody, you know, and that's how it helps. It creates awareness. So hopefully, you know, they get help. We live from the music, you know. We support a crew of people as well. Flogging Molly is a big team. It's not just the 7 of us up there. It's a lot of people behind the scenes, you know, helping tours, making it happen. And yeah, for us, it's a full-time thing. And for years there was no way we could do anything else. You know, when we're playing over 200 shows a year, plus all the traveling. I mean, there's no time for much else. And so we're lucky in a sense that this is our job. And at the same time, you know, we've put everything, all of ourselves into this to make it happen. You know, and we gave it all we had, and here we are, 13 years later, doing an interview. Yeah. Well, that's a good question, and I don't know if there's any right answer to it. The music, my solo music comes from my upbringing, what I grew up listening to, and my interpretation of that. Why didn't those songs end up on a Flogging Molly album? Who knows? I mean, I remember sharing the songs with the guys in Gal and Flogging Molly, and it was kind of like, I remember Dave specifically saying, you know, Nate, I really love your songs. I think you've got your own story to tell, and I think you should tell it in your own way, and don't feel like you have to kind of fit it into Flogging Molly. And so for me, that was like a blessing, and I kind of just took it as that, and decided to, you know, express myself musically. I mean, I express myself with Flogging Molly as well, but there's other sides of me and of all of us,
And I wanted to take an opportunity to get that out. Because I mean, having songs inside of you for a decade, it's like it can become stale, and it stopped me from writing. And since I've released that record, I mean, I've been writing a ton, which has been a great experience for me. And also going on tour with a different band, it gives you great perspective. Gives me great perspective on how wonderful Flogging Molly is, and how how powerful the seven of us are together. And to be away, I think it makes you see a little more clearly. And also, because I'm able to express myself completely with my other band, I feel no conflict now with Flogging Molly. I feel very content with my position. So I feel all the way around, it's a positive thing. And I'm glad that I'm in a cool enough band where people's egos are in check enough to be like, yeah, do it, bro. And I not only do I back it, I really love it, and I want it to do well. So it's pretty sweet. Well, according to Prince, the internet's dead. I personally think it is just a tool for promotion. I personally do not spend any time on the internet. That's just me. It's not really the wisest choice, maybe, but that's just not how I lived. It's not how I grew up. Computer was never in my house. And I do own a computer now, but I don't. It irritates me, like the whole Facebook culture. I really find it unattractive, and but also I respect the fact that it's a tool to share the music. So there is obviously a Flogging Molly Facebook page or MySpace. There's a Nathan Maxwell MySpace page, and the truth is though, I'm not on there checking it. We have someone that one of our employees basically that kind of runs it for us. And I mean, I don't think George or Dave or anybody's on.
I've never been.
Yeah, it's not part of who we are. And I think that a lot of bands that have come after the MySpace or Facebook era, I like that error. It's just a different mentality. Going in the dressing room and seeing everybody on their laptop talking to somebody that's not there, and it would blow my mind. I think, well, shit, you're at a rock and roll show. The party's out there. What are you doing? And nowadays, it's like every dressing room you go into, everyone's just.
It's a double-edged sword. I think there's an upside to it in terms of creating awareness, but you lose autonomy as an individual, as a band. There's no part of the thing that's cool about bands growing up is that they came to town, but I never knew that much about them unless you read an article. I was like, oh, that's cool. You go see them play, and it was like, that's great. It was never. But I think that's not just. I think that's true with not just music, but any area of entertainment. Like, people are up your asses about everything because they, Facebook friends are not your friends. It's a whole another culture and environment, and there are bands, like Nathan was saying, that get, when MySpace was hot, like, oh, this band is blowing up on MySpace. What does that mean? Most of the bands I've seen that get big on MySpace, or they get hot on Facebook, and they get out there and they're playing, they can't fucking play their instruments. It's a joke. They suck. Because you know where the test is? The test is out there. The test is 3,500 people, and a venue sold out 2 weeks ago that we've been playing here for years, not just this venue, but little venues in Vienna, over and over and over again, and word of mouth, people talking to each other. You saw us, you thought they were great, you invite him, you invite Nathan, they come down. But the true test is whether those people come back and see you, and whether you move and touch and inspire them. Every show, somehow, you touch somebody. It's not because your music sounded good online, because we're not the best recorded band, I can tell you that. Radio's not playing our hits that we don't have, that's not happening. But something happens live. I mean, that's when you can tell what kind of, if you can have a career out of this. Because most of the bands that get hot, in my opinion, they never transfer from MySpace or those other environments unless they actually had something to begin with, in terms of a foundation, a great live show, being able to play their instruments. If they have that, then they have a chance at having a long-term career. But when we started out, we didn't, you know, people think they're, you know, people have this thing that if you're famous, or your perception of being famous, particularly in the United States because you're on Facebook or MySpace and how many hits you have and how many friends, like somehow that translates that you're rich or you have money or something's going on, but it doesn't work that way. There's no correlation there anymore. It doesn't. Fame has nothing to do with your success. It just, you know, everybody's maybe getting more than their 15 minutes, you know, and it's hard for me to translate or make any use out of it because it's like, okay, what's it, you know, it's a tool for us for marketing, you know, and for people to know about us, and I think that's fine. I think it's great for anybody to have that. But if you're just solely relying on that, you know, you know, the live experience is unique. It really is, you know. It should be anyway.
Oh, amazing interview. I'm stunned. Seriously.